number 3. Coming to the line. Who's going to get it done? Green flag, we're racing.
Get your foot in. He got it. He's got it. He's got it.
Get there. No.
This is going to win.
Wow.
It's right in the name, short. So after the lengthy laps around Bark River, we come back to one of the more compact venues here at Wild West. Get your elbows out, racers, and fans, get ready to watch round 4 of the iRacing Regional Short Course Series. You'll see it all live here on FTF.GG. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. And of course, behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson. Joey, it's always a joy to get back here to the short course trucks. They put on some of the best action you could ask for on iRacing.
They really are a ton of fun, and this track in specific, you got to get the elbows out, so you better get to know your competitors out there. There's going to be definitely fender rubbing, there's going to be door banging out there, and I think one of the coolest parts about Wild West, that huge start-finish line jump.
It is massive, and it definitely is going to be a talking point because if you get some side-by-side racing up into turn 1, it could be an issue. Now, of course, we are into the penultimate round of the season as well, so we're getting down to it in the championship, and the top 3 drivers only separated by 9 points, so it is all to play for at this stage.
And that's what the championship is all about. That's what you try to hope for, right? Is that all of the best drivers get funneled up towards the top, and then you create these battles towards the end of the championship that everybody looks forward to week in and week out, how to prepare and how to perform best when it comes time.
Exactly. And well, they're already performing because we're into qualifying at the moment. And as you can see, we've got a number of drivers on the board with Drake Mittag taking the fastest time so far in the 5:18. But it's only 1,000th ahead of Brent Smith. That's one of the features of this track I mentioned at the very beginning, Joey. It is a very short lap around here.
It definitely is. I'm checking out the times right now, about 49 seconds or what these pro trucks are doing in terms of qualifying. Got about 5 minutes left on the board, and I mentioned that huge start-finish line jump. There it is right there. Got to make sure that you get the landing right on the truck, because if you don't land smoothly, you can definitely be in for a world of hurt.
Coming back down the hill, there's still yet another big tabletop jump that takes you into turn 2, which is definitely the tightest of all of the few 4 corners that you have on this track. Wow, big moment there coming over for the number 25 and slamming onto the ground, leaving nothing in it. Didn't quite see who that was taking that. Looks like it was Austin Bolson who had that wild ride across the start-finish line. They only get 4 laps around here to set their fastest time around these laps, and then that will order them in their heat. So this is not qualifying and then everybody lines up according to their start time. It is going to be slotted into various heats, and then from the 6-lap heats, they'll all either go to the last chance qualifier or they'll immediately advance off to the feature. And really, that's the big thing in this, Joey, is making sure you get to that feature. So you want to try and do it at the first go.
That's the whole goal, is you want to be in the main show at the end of the night. And 4 laps is definitely nice to have in qualifying. You were mentioning that 4-lap number that the drivers have, and I think that you might actually give up some of these out laps because here at Wild West, it's pretty much 180-degree turns. Just it varies on how tight they are. In turn number 4, you can actually go way, way out there to the outside and pretty much launch, make a straight shot launch off of that final corner to really set up a good qualifying lap.
This is Drew Grantham right now. Goes the long way around at turn 2. Kind of interesting line from him, but we expect him to tuck it down to the inside here. You can see they'll be right up against that K-rail before they get on the throttle once again along the back stretch, climbing up to the highest part of the circuit. And then you mentioned it here at turn 4, where it's all about setting up for that long run down the main straightaway.
That downhill run out of turn number 4. Keep your foot pretty much to the floor. You want to get the traction off of those little whoops, and there's the start-finish line. That huge jump, throwing this call it 4,000-pound truck sideways in the air, and definitely a bit of a flick there trying to get it into turn number 1. I know that it's always kind of differing opinions, right? You always need to get the truck to drive straight, but how much yaw angle, how much sliding do you actually want the truck to be doing?
That one was a lot closer down to the apex wall that time through 2. This is the 3rd lap for Drew Grantham. And how much time does he have left? He has plenty of time, it looks like, to try and complete these last 2 laps if he takes them. Sometimes we will see drivers who will take the first lap, will then park it, and then go for just the 3rd lap and kind of try to get the best freshness out of the tires, if you will, and get the most grip out of them. But it seems like Drew's going to take all 4 of them, or at least the first 3, with the 3rd lap being the quickest so far at a 50.9. That's going to jump him up to 32nd.
There might be a couple more trucks out there still putting in some qualifying times. So you think this is the 310 truck coming around turn number 4 here. This is William Findling. He's currently sitting as one of our fastest trucks on the board, P3. Let's see what this time can actually do here. 48.98. So that's going to put him straight to the top. That's your new provisional pole sitter.
Nicely done. That will put him on the front of his heat as well, of the top heat. So he's really got a good opportunity to start this one well. Meanwhile, as we watch the car of Hadley Boyce come across the line for his final lap, he does not improve. A 49.280 was just a couple hundredths off of his best time, unfortunately. But still, he'll be starting 6th fastest in this event today. So he's in a good position. It looks like that is actually everybody. So while we do have a minute left, all the drivers who are able to qualify have now qualified.
A little bit of a calm before the storm, right, Joe, is that everybody kind of has gone out there, shown their cards, put them on the table, and now you kind of have a little bit of a breather, get to evaluate, all right, where am I going to be stacking up in each one of these heats? What is my goal going to be? Is it going to be aggression out of the get-go just to get into those top transfer spots? Is it going to be patience in those first couple of hairpins? Because as we know, turns 1 and 2 can get pretty chaotic.
It can. It's so tight into that first corner. And then, of course, everybody's plunging back down the hill into 2. So it's hard to get the trucks stopped in time. So we have often seen trucks get turned over, unfortunately, in those first laps around this place. And they're not going to have much time to try and make up for it. Like we said, 6 laps. And I believe it is the top 3 that advance on through to the feature automatically. So of the 10 drivers that we're going to be seen in these races, it's going to be important to get up to the front quickly. And it looks like we have our first heat ready to go. So let's go through that starting order, where it's Wes Graham who is on the pole for this one. William Findling will be starting in 2nd, and Shaden Minder will be in 3rd. Then you got Brock Smith on the outside of that 2nd row. Christian Noble starts in 5th. Solomon Borschinger will be P6. Chad Simpson starts 7th today. Quentin Johnson in 8th, and Ryder Hewart in 9th. Miller and D'Souza will not be taking part as they are race control here today. Other interesting point in this is they are flipping the top 2. So the front row essentially gets switched around. The pole sitter starts on the outside. 2nd place gets to start on the inside.
A little bit of a swap-a-roo. I like that. It's something different, and just a little bit of a variable added to these drivers. And all of them are lined up on, call it that back straightaway, right? The straightaway before turn number 4. So it is that shortened pace lap. Pretty much get right to the action.
Last time out, we saw a few penalties handed out. Some of them, of course, by the sim itself for cut course. That not really a problem here, since it's all concrete barriers completely around this place. So you're not going to have trouble keeping it on what is considered the racetrack. Even still, because it is tight confines, they do have live stewards here, and they do hand out penalties if they feel you have overstepped the bounds out there, including you can be removed from advancing on if they feel like you got the position unfairly. So if you're going to make a pass, you have to make it clean.
Short course trucks are always a contact sport, but to your point, you can't just go barging through your competitors. You still have to show racecraft out there. The off-road stuff, it's a relatively small community, and if you get the elbows out all the time, you're going to get that reputation. It's best to race others how you like to be raced yourself.
The golden rule, right? Or else it's going to come back around to you. Definitely kind of those vibes around here. The old school NASCAR of if you start to dish it out, you better expect to be able to take it. Looks like they're going to send them around here in just a moment with such a small margin between our top runners. They're going to be wanting to get a good finish in each and every race. The heats and last chance qualifiers and even qualifying do offer up points in this series.
Looks like that pace car is finally starting to roll. Hopefully that thing's got some all-wheel drive and good enough ground clearance here at Wild West.
I just noticed that as well. Usually it's the pace truck. Somebody apparently called the wrong vehicle out for this.
I love it.
It's great. It'll be funny to see it try and go over some of these jumps. Yes. You can see it zip away there as now Wes Graham has control. Nice air to the iRacing sedan. Green flag is out, coming up to turn one. What's the start of the first heat going to look like? Ooh, big moment there for the inside for Wes Graham. Just gets his elbows out and is able to take that lead away. Now it's a battle for P2 between Findling and Minder.
I think it was really Minder that took advantage off of that inside line, and now he gets a little bit of contact there. That's that third place gray and blue truck, but it is all Graham and Findling out front. Those are the two trucks that are really starting to gap it out right now.
To the back stretch for the first time in anger of these 6 laps. Graham, Findlay, Minder going to be your advancing drivers. Brock Smith is on the outside looking in as we got a battle for the lead. Findlay would like that spot back off of Wes Graham. Just gives him a little hello, and now it's a drag race back to 1.
Looks like Findling will have the track position to the inside here to turn number 1. Got to get that truck slowed down, and nice and textbook right there to the apex. Gets the power down. Graham will still be to the right side here, but he's really going to have to send it.
Coming up into the braking. Ooh, gets the quarter panel, and they're going to go 3 wide down the inside. Minder spies an opportunity. Doesn't quite make it stick. Cuts back underneath. Findling's still your leader. Graham looks like he's going to lose that second place. Nice opportunistic stuff from the 415.
That was just a great move. I kind of mentioned that Minder in turn number 1, lap 1, kind of did the same move where he just was able to tuck the truck right down to the apex. Slides a little bit wide there in turn number 4, and William Findling just puts the hammer down, really gets that launch coming out of the final corner, and you can see why he was the fastest qualifier.
Yeah, he's trying to make as much distance as he can, and that is why Chaden just about gets underneath them down into turn 1, but they'll stretch back apart as they get on the loud pedal down into turn 2. Once again, it'll crunch down as they accordion back, and you'll see that back and forth all race long where it looks so close to being a pass, but you have to be right up there.
I kind of refer to it as a dance, right? In typical road racing or oval racing, the cars, they grip to the track so you can kind of predict where they're going to be. The same thing happens on dirt. You just have, call it bumper bowling lanes that you need to take account for. The cars don't stick to the dirt. They definitely slide around, and you just have to account for where they're going to be sliding.
Coming back up into 1. The slide is not as far along for Minder this time. It does look like Findling's getting just a little bit of comfort zone between himself and P2, but they only need to be in those top 3, so I don't think they want to waste the gap that they have over 4th at this stage, which is now Solomon Borshing. He is being hassled by Brock Smith, it looks like, back there for that 4th position. In fact, gets a good run coming off of turn 3 and is going to try to make the move up to 4.
Let's see if the 46 here, the truck to the inside, can accomplish the pass. Nice and carrying the momentum there from Solomon, but it is going to be Brock Smith that overtakes for that 4th place. He's got about a second and a half up the road to get to that final transfer spot, and with only 2 laps remaining, he's got his work cut out for him.
It's going to be tough to get it back, especially when he loses it right away. Solomon not taking no for an answer. Repasses him, This is all to decide who starts highest in the last chance qualifier. As it sits right now, back through goes Brock Smith. And now, watch out for Christian Noble. He's getting awful close to them.
Joe, I tell you what, I think that Chaden kind of got away with one there in turn number 2 because he actually nosed it into that concrete apex wall, and thankfully the truck was able to kind of bounce off and he was able to resume the lap, but that could have been a transfer spot of second position just thrown out the window.
Yeah, we have seen trucks climb up those walls before. These tires do stick out quite a bit, and you can just wind up turning it over as they are very high center of gravity. It's getting close between Minder and Graham now, who wants to try and get a little bit of extra buffer himself and finish P2 instead of third.
Already on the final lap of our first heat here, and it really is William Findling starting to run away with it. It is between Minder and Graham. Who gets that second place position? Just one more turn remaining.
Can't risk it too much. Brock Smith is right there. He's about a second behind. And if you have a spin or just a bad run through the corner due to some contact, it could be disastrous. They're not going to make contact. Findling's going to take home the win of Heat 1. Minder will finish P2, and Graham will be the last to advance automatically to the feature from this group. Brock Smith did manage to get that fourth place away from Borshing in the end, and Noble will finish behind him. So there's fourth, fifth, and sixth with Quentin Johnson, Chad Simpson, and Kyle D'Souza, along with Ryder Huart, rounding out your 10-truck field. So we will see them again later on in the first of the last chance qualifiers. But until then, we have our next heat up on the grid. So heat number 2 sees Hadley Boyce starting from the top. Drake Mittag is going to be starting P2, and Taylor Vandenbush will be third. Gavin Plummer, fourth today for him, followed by Brandon Forcade in the 5th spot, and Joey Rickert in 6th. Row 4 has Joel Ulrich on the inside. Drew Gerber will be starting from 8th, and then Lucas Lambert behind him, and Nicholas Dachelet will not be racing as he is another of our race control. Only 9 trucks taking part in this one. And last time it seemed like that switch around between the top 2, Joey, did give us some good excitement early in the race on who was going to take that lead.
I was going to say that what I learned from race number 1 is that the first, call it 2 laps, maybe even 3 laps, so the first half of the race, it's chaotic, right? You need to have your elbows out. You need to get the track position. And then once things settled out and the drivers kind of find their own rhythm and find their own pace, then it kind of becomes a little bit more calm. But for those first couple laps, you better be all the way up towards the front and also check that inside.
That's a good point. Keep your wits about you, especially at the start of the race. Looks like they're sending them off for the start of heat number 2. And the one on the outside looking in at the start of this is going to be Gavin Plummer back there in 4th. He definitely has motivation to try to be aggressive at the start of this one. We'll see if he does so. And yeah, everybody really eager to go there as the pace car has not moved, but everybody else has. There we go. Now we're getting it going.
It's always fun to watch those drivers click it into gear, and then they have so much shock travel in these trucks that they just have so much body pitch, body roll, especially when you're going from a standstill. It's pretty cool to watch.
His car is off in the back. Lambert having trouble getting the car into position. And the green flag is out. Boyce with a very good jump over Drake Mittag. And as they come up into the braking of turn 1, instead of what we saw last time, it's almost single file behind, though. A little bit of bumper bars. And it seems as though Joey Rickert is going to get almost knocked off the course.
The front 2 are escaping nicely, but yeah, it is just kind of a mess back here. There's a big shove there between 5th place and 4th place. I believe that was Brandon Forcade getting that front bumper out and using it on that bright green number 43, but it is actually Vandenbush in that P3. That's going to be the truck to watch. That is your final transfer spot as our front 2 duke it out.
Rickert was the one on the bicycle as well, nearly rolling it over, but thankfully stayed on all four. Looks like we may have had an issue with Lucas Lambert at the back, but we'll check that out in a moment. Looks like some serious damage on the truck. Back to our leaders. Boyce versus Mittag is the 518, putting the pressure on. Don't think he's quite close enough for anything yet, but all he needs is one good run or the truck ahead of him going a little bit wide. Not going to do it yet, but there was just a little bit of daylight in there.
I was curious if we're going to see Drake kind of hang out and just continue to separate away from P3, but no, Mittag wants the lead. You saw it there in turn number 2, and then he really forced the issue in turn 3. He's going to dive the truck down to the inside. Can he get the thing stopped? Yes, he does. Overtake for the lead, Drake Mittag.
Nicely done. Will Hadley have an answer for him coming back into turn 1? We ride on board over the jump, coming down to the braking. He's right there, but good cover to the inside by Drake to prevent him from getting an opportunity. He's definitely making sure that it stays close here at this stage and really sends it in there. Just gives a little bit of a nudge to send him wide, and the battle erupts once again. We have a replay at the ready, but I don't know when we're going to find time if these two keep doing this.
And an over-under, and I actually think maybe a little bit of bump drafting between the top two. I don't think I've seen that too much in off-road trucks, bump drafting down the straightaways through the whoops.
Well, now you make me want to try and take these things out to Talladega and see what happens from there. But in the meantime, we come across now halfway through this event. Drake leading the way. If this is a little bit more calm, and I'd say it is, even though he got to the inside, Hadley definitely wasn't as hard on him through turn 1 this time. Let's take a quick glance while hopefully we have an opportunity at what happened to Lucas Lambert here on lap 1. He was already towards the back of the field, a little bit of side-to-side bumping. Oh, and he hits a bad landing, and then looks like he just got stuck.
Unfortunate. You were talking about the ground clearance the trucks have. That was on full display right there. But let me tell you what, Hadley Boyce in second place. That's our truck in second. He was on 2 wheels coming up out of turn number 2, and what was a 1.5 second gap between P2 and P3 has now evaporated.
Slamming down into the ground once again, landing coming into turn 1. As they all swing around that sharp left-hander, it then switches back at the bottom of the hill, having to get the truck settled just after it lands on the whoops there. And yeah, Van Bush is trying to get as close as he can, but Gavin Plummer for that transfer position thinks that there is a chance. He knows that he's got to try and get by soon, and he's been poking and prodding in there, making little bits of contact to see where he can get an opportunity.
It's pretty unreal, the lap times that all of these trucks are running. There is only maybe 1 or 2 trucks in the, call it 48-second bracket in qualifying. And all of the fast laps here are 49.0. So even all the way back through pretty much P4, P5 back here. So there's a big move. Plummer gives the door there to P3 to Vandenbush.
Doesn't get him the position, but now Taylor really knows that he's there. He's got to cover him off, and he'll take a nice shallow line to the inside. He gets a bump from behind from Gavin Plummer, but that's not going to allow him through. How much more defense will we be able to see out of the 89 to try and wrap this one up, with it being the final lap and to try and decide who automatically goes? And again, he kind of weaves across the track to cover off Gavin Plummer to keep him from being able to get inside him down into the final corner. Drake Mittag is going to be able to take the win. Hadley Boyce will finish second, but Vandenbush will be able to claim that third transfer spot just barely over Gavin Plummer, who gave it his best.
I think that was a nice job there as he was able to hold on to that final transfer. So it's Drake Mittag, Hadley Boyce, Taylor Vandenbush, your top 3 that transfer on. Gavin Plummer, Brandon Forcade, Joel Ulrich, Joey Rickert, Drew Gerber, and then also Lucas Lambert. Those were the 9 trucks in heat number 2.
So now we actually cut it down even further, interestingly. In heat number 3, it looks like we'll only have 8 of them. We do have to wait here. It looks like Lambert got the truck off the wall, and now he finally finishes the race. So that should make it official. Everybody from fourth on down, you're going to see again pretty soon in the LCQs. As for heat number 3, Mark Grechko is going to be starting on the pole of this one. He'll have Brent Smith to his outside. From there, it is Nathan Metaxen in third and Jeremy DeWett in fourth. Stephen Metcalf starts fifth today. Chris Sullins next to him in sixth, followed by Jake Kill in seventh and Wyatt Miller in eighth. As I mentioned, Barry and Drapkin won't be racing in this one, so you can disregard those two. I know the chat was interested. These are Pro 4s that are racing. So these are the four-wheel drive trucks that we've got out here today competing, which I always enjoyed because, I mean, obviously you can do a little bit more point and squirt, Joey, but the extra power definitely needs to be respected.
It does. I like them to be able to just hop in and have fun. I think a lot of people overlook that the Pro 4s here in iRacing. They think, oh, you know, I don't want to go drive a big truck. Off-road stuff isn't my forte. But I tell you what, you put anybody in these Pro 4s, I guarantee you they come out smiling. The jumps, the sounds, the balance on the cars, they're tremendous fun to drive.
They are so much fun. The first time that I got in one, I was grinning ear to ear, and definitely encourage everybody to give it a go. You automatically get the Pro Light, which is going to be the two-wheel drive and a little bit less power, but even that is going to leave you having a fun time on the various tracks that you can race here on iRacing. Now we have a small hold because you can see there is a gap. Jeremy DeWett seems to have had a connection issue. We'll try and get him back in. This series does such a very good job about trying to make sure everybody gets a chance to participate. It's not a cutthroat series, as competitive as it is, Joey. You mentioned it earlier. It's a small community. They want to see everybody have a good time.
We're all playing on the playground together, right? You don't want to see your buddy fall off the playground or not get dropped off in order to not play with his buddies out there. So that's exactly what we're doing. Is we're just waiting, making sure that we can have all of the drivers come and essentially play together. I'll ramble a little bit more about that Pro 4 truck, Joe, because I do think it is one of the cooler vehicles on iRacing. A lot of people are very, very unfamiliar with short course off-road trucks. I think one of the neat parts about this thing, if we ever get an interior shot, you actually sit next to the motor in this thing. The driver sits on the left, just like how you would in a US car, but you see that big box directly to the right? That is actually the box for the air box, the air intake in the motor. So the motor literally sitting right next to your right knee.
I actually was not aware of that. That would be a little bit unnerving for me, I feel like.
But that's what gives it such great weight distribution and the handling characteristics that it really has. It truly is. Call it a mid-engine, although it is still more forward.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely uniquely built. It's not your regular pickup that you're going to take down to get groceries, but all the same, it still holds the same physics principles, and it's all about trying to get it from point A to point B as quickly as you can. Now, how you get there is where that secret then lies, as the pace car leads them away. Hard to miss Mark Grechko's car. As earlier in the series, I had mentioned it's kind of the paintball car, if you will. But he'll try and launch off towards turn one and gets a very, very good jump over Brent Smith and Metaxen.
Here we go, into already door banging between P2 and P3. There's some more elbows out from the 19 of Metaxen, trying to get away that second place.
Sad news is, looks like DeWett was not able to join us, so we have 7 trucks. Real send from some of those in the back. I think it was Stephen Metcalf that you saw in there. It looks like Grechko still leads, but it's a battle for P2 between Metaxen and Brent Smith. I thought I saw maybe a bit of connection issues, which is not what you want this early in the race. Side by side for P2. Metaxen on the inside gets a bump from Brent Smith, and that might actually allow him to do the over-under. Look at that.
Yeah, we're going to be side by side. I still think I see Jeremy DeWitt kind of blinking in and out of second place, so that makes this battle even more interesting. This is the battle for the transfer, and now, oh my goodness, that was a big hit in turn number 1.
So apologies, DeWitt did get to join. I saw him blanked out on my screen, but I guess he's somewhere in the ether there. 3 wide, 4 wide almost, coming down into turn 2. Metcalf is going to get himself into 4th, maybe even 3rd here, depending. He's making some impressive and aggressive moves.
That 707, that was a huge move, definitely, and we call that racecraft, right? You always try to set up the pass, but sometimes you just have to read the table and what's given to you, and that's exactly what just happened right there. I believe that was Metoxen taking advantage this time.
Again, giving a big shot to the back, and that allowed the car on the inside to square it up. That little bit quicker bad landing for Metcalf. He's still going to be able to make it through the corner. Metoxen, unfortunately, getting a bit shoved out. 3 wide coming down the hill off the tabletop. On the outside, that was Jake Hill who loses out, but it might work out for the better because they're all squabbling in front of him. Nope, he can't quite get off the corner without a hit.
We've had 2 moments of 3 wide on the corner exit this past lap, and now the 707 really kind of exerts the dominance, gives the stiff arm out to Metoxen there, trying to claim that, call it 3rd place.
Now it looks like it's the battle for 4th. It's really hard to tell because DeWitt keeps kind of going in and out here, and not sure if they're going to allow him to continue if his internet keeps up like that. Usually considered a bit unsporting. Now it's Metcalf's turn to get hurt from behind, climbing up and on top. Chris Sullins gets on top of Brent Smith. They're going to continue to tangle. Smith gets Sullins gets turned around, and he is going to be the big loser in that fight.
I think that there was a lot going on there. Nathan Metoxen was right in the middle of it there in turn number 1. This has been the most, call it argy-bargy of the heats that we've seen so far. Definitely a lot of elbow shoving going on.
So Grechko being scored as your leader. Smith is 2nd. Metcalf is actually up into 3rd. And I haven't seen DeWitt in a while out there, so he may have lost connection. We'll get an update in a bit. We cross the line once again. Come around for the penultimate lap. Little side-by-side battle here for 2nd place. No, excuse me, that's for 4th place. Metcalf and Metoxen. No, excuse me, Metoxen and Jake Hill. My goodness, this timing and scoring is driving me nuts.
It's a little frustrating with one of the cars that's kind of blinking in and out. I'm not sure if Jeremy DeWitt is going to be scored here or not because he's not really been on the racetrack. Yes, he has been racing, but he hasn't appeared for all of the other competitors out there. So it's a little bit difficult to try to kind of figure out exactly what's going on. But I think officially he has hit pit lane with 1 lap to go.
All right, that simplifies things now. So it's Grechko, Smith, Metcalf. And Metoxen, unfortunately, is a long ways back with his dueling back there with Jake Hill. And that has cost him. Nice work by that 707 to get himself into that transfer position. Grechko, in the meantime, has just been kind of running away with things. Look at that 3-second gap to the nearest truck.
Definitely the biggest gap we've seen out of all the heat so far. And this is that final transfer driver. That 707 is our leader right here. Grechko, that you were talking about, comes out of turn number 4.
Clearly some very good speed underneath this 164 truck. He's going to win heat number 3. Brent Smith is going to be coming across in 2nd place. And then Stephen Metcalf will be the last of our drivers to automatically head to the feature race. Metoxen, DeWitt, Hill, Sullins, and Miller will have to head to the LCQ. Before we get to that, we've got one more heat to go. Let's show you those results for this latest heat. So 3rd on up is who is now entered into the big show. Everybody else is going to have to try and work their way in. This now brings us to the 4th and final heat of the night. On the top of it, it's going to be Colton Buchanan with Brody Disher starting in 2nd. It's Rick Huseman in P3, and Adam McAfee in 4th. Patrick Solari starts 5th today, followed by Austin Bolson in 6th and Kyle Cooper 7th. Then Drew Grantham in the 8th position. King and Leone are going to be our race control here at the back. So trucks looks like they're actually ready to go on this one, although Austin Bolson kind of disappeared on my screen. Hope we don't have another bit of waiting on this one. And if you recognize the name Chris Leone, that is, yes, the guy that is on the Upshift or the iRacing Downshift podcast. So very much a big fan of the off-road road racing. Oh, excuse me. Is he racing?
I mean, here he is. The number 10 truck is out on course right now. And, you know, I'm going to throw a little bit of a shot at Chris here because he is always one of the most loved members. He does so much with iRacing. I would have thought his iRating would have been a little bit higher.
I guess that goes back to the joke they keep making on the podcast that they're frequently giving out the I Let You Win awards. Not going to earn that since this is a private league in this one. But yeah, Chris Leone, I'm sure, has handed that achievement in iRacing over to a number of drivers over the years. But yeah, glad to see him out here and competing. Now he just has to make sure and have a nice, clean race because that extra weight on your shoulders when you're a staff member, you can't get into too much trouble out there.
I'm trying to come up with the perfect analogy for seeing him actually out there on the track. The Great White Buffalo.
It is. I mean, again, though, I'm not shocked because I know he is such an avid fan and a cheerleader for this style of racing. So to see him pop up here makes complete sense. And hopefully he has a good night and we'll at least get to see him race again in the LCQ, even if he doesn't get up there today. But you never know. We had some craziness in the last one, Joey. So that just proves, even if you start from the back, that doesn't necessarily mean you're doomed to stay back there.
No, I think that you do want track position because of how short these heat races are. So you always want to start towards the front of the field, no matter what racing you're doing. But yes, you can make up passes. And with how much action goes on at these hairpins, sometimes it's more of searching for that racecraft. You know, where's the open gap going to be versus forcing the issue?
Making 2 steps ahead of your rivals. Yeah, and finding that opening as they'll come out of the final corner. Buchanan takes control of the field. Ooh, my goodness. Disher kind of leans across on him. Thankfully, they'll be able to keep it okay at the starts, and the green flag is out. Colton tries to run away, doesn't want any more of those elbows to get into his ribs, even though Brody gets down to the inside, gets a good launch off. They'll make slight contact over the jump. No harm, no foul between them, and down into turn 2. They have started to stretch away from those behind. Adam McAfee sending it in, though.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's Rick Huseman in the 136 that's really gotten kind of shoved towards the back of the field. He's lost 3 positions, so exactly what you don't want to end up doing. I think he was just a little bit to the outside in turn number 1 and then to the outside again in turn number 3 there. So just got to get back on that racing line.
It's Bolson in that bright yellow car. Wow, Disher really wants that spot back. Remember, they inverted the top 2, so he kind of probably expected to be there, but that was not the case at the beginning of the race. Takes a very patient line, I have to say. We've seen most trucks try and really get up the inside as they try and slide through that corner. He didn't try and do that. He actually stayed fully behind the 202.
I'm sure I'll get ridiculed for this, but I do think that there's 2 solid ways to approach the corners here at Wild West, and one is to carry so much momentum that you have a very, very small slide, and then it basically stops you at apex point and kind of launch it off of the corner, or you roll it around the inside, being very, very calm and very, very smooth. I feel like those are really the 2 driving styles for these corners.
Definite contact that time between Brody and Colton. He is staying very close. Both their driving styles working out pretty well for them here at the start of this race. Behind them, Solari is going to try and deny McAfee an advancing position. As in front of them, Brody gave another little hello to Colton through the corner that time. They'll break down into turn 2, and that actually sends Colton way wide. Now it looks like Brody's got the opportunity, but again, the corners just keep switching back and forth. This one uphill much longer. Can Brody get the speed? He carries good momentum.
I think that Colton really got away with one. There's the move from Brody to the inside here. I think that Colton's just going to slide to the outside of the racetrack and really struggle to put the power down. So Brody's probably going to overtake for the lead and once again going to have the inside to turn number 1.
I'd say that was a smart move. I think this is going to be definitive right here on lap 4 out of 6. And there you go. Just slices on by. Brody is your new leader. Colton can try and fight back in these next 2 laps, but he doesn't have a lot of time to do it. Takes a much squared off line compared to Brody that time.
Tell you what, Joe, we got 3 trucks all fighting for this final transfer position here in P3. Patrick Solari is this black and green number 99. He currently holds it, but McAfee, Huseman, they've all been swapping it around this previous lap.
Adam almost gets underneath him there. Reminds him that he is trying to take that position away. He's got to be careful with Rick, just kind of hovering around in the background. Now down to those 2 laps to go, as I mentioned earlier, coming across turn 1. And Rick definitely manages to get alongside the 818. Just can't get the run off of turn 1 back down the hill.
And really only a lap and a half remaining here as you saw Colton Buchanan, our P2 truck, really slid wide once again. So just loses ground to our leader. And he's got to be careful. There may only be, call it a lap plus 1 corner, but you slide too wide in the wrong corner, you might get gobbled up by other trucks.
He really does not want to be on that bubble spot. That is a danger zone with how many trucks are so close behind. White flag is out with 1 to go. Brody, once he got that top spot, has absolutely run away. Look at the distance between himself and the others.
In fact, that last lap time of 48.8. I know that the track constantly changes and constantly evolves with all of the different trucks running on it, but I believe that lap right there would have been fast enough to be our fastest qualifier here tonight.
Yeah, not typical at the end of a dirt road race, that's for sure. So Solari has kind of solidified things a little bit. He's got himself a gap of about 4/10 over McAfee. It's not going to be completely solid, but that's a little safer than what he had before. Not as safe as Brody's run. He is going to take the win after having to elbow his way through. Colton Buchanan will finish second, and Solari will get the final automatic entry into our feature race.
Look at Chris Leone try to slide it up the inside on Drew here, but he's going to have to settle for that 9th place position. Good fight there between the number 10 and the number 92.
Yeah, those two actually banged doors against each other a number of times during that one. So there you go. That is your unofficial results for heat number 4. Brody, Colton, Patrick carrying on. Adam, Rick, Austin, Kyle, Drew, and Chris heading off to these next races where we're going to be watching our last chance qualifiers. So that takes us to what is called the D main. And this will only be 4 laps, much shorter. Brock Smith on the top spot for this one. Adam McAfee starts in second. Jake Hill will be P3. Joel Ulrich in 4th, and Quentin Johnson in the 5th position. Then it is Kyle Cooper in 6th, and Jeremy DeWett, if he's able to get that connection worked out, will be starting in 7th, with Lucas Lambert in P8. So only 4 laps, but the good news is for at least some of these drivers, Joey, it looks like they're actually it is 2 to the feature. Pardon me. I keep forgetting they have that extra one in there just to play it safe in case they do need to transfer someone and give out a penalty. So top 2 will advance out of these few drivers left.
The urgency is going to be cranked up a notch here. Remember, we were having 6-lap heats, and now it is only 4 laps for these, call it last chance qualifiers here. you got to get up towards the front. You got to be in those top positions. And what's it going to take? Is it going to be elbows out? I saw that I think it was McAfee there in the 818 really sent it in on turn number 4 on our last heat. But here he is in the LCQ, unfortunately.
Which means, you know, if he sent it before, now he's really got to send it. The aggression just kind of turns up to 11. Drivers will be desperate not to be parked for the evening. So watch out for some fireworks as the iRacing pace car heads off into the pit entry. Brock Smith has control of the field. He gets on the loud pedal. Green flag is out, and it is a very good start behind him for Jake Hill. He actually is going to take second away from McAfee coming up into turn 1, or will he, as they all pinch down to the apex?
It was really that inside line that got going on that green flag launch. Adam McAfee here is going to try to defend that second place position. Jake Hill goes the long way around. They make contact with the leader. I actually think it's going to be Jake Hill coming out with P2.
Brock Smith getting a bit of a surprise coming into that corner. Jake Hill is in second, but Adam comes right back at him. He is going to get up the inside into turn 4, but he's got to finish the job here. And the nose ahead goes to Jake Hill. In fact, under braking, they almost get into the back of our leader. Adam gets the spot and is now in the advancing position.
Can always be a little bit of a tricky part when you're trying to outbrake your competitor, but there is the leader right there in front, and there's a little bit of a shove, Jake Hill into the back of Adam, so I don't think that there's any love lost between these two yet.
I mean, if it keeps going like this, we're going to be seeing this all 4 laps, sending it in deep. McAfee takes that second place back from Jake Hill, tries to cut down early to cover off that 170. He does. And how about Joel Ulrich? He says, you guys can keep fighting like that. This gives me a shot now.
That was a crucial corner for Adam here at sitting in position number 2 because he was able to draw a little bit of a gap away from Jake Hill. I wonder if that's all that he needed to essentially focus forward and forget what's in the mirror.
It does look like the truck has pace. He's pulling away from that 170 now that he's finally gotten away from the side-by-side Jake and Joel, getting a real rough moment coming up into turn 1. Looks like we have lost Kyle Cooper and Lucas Lambert, and Quentin Johnson now is our last driver out on the track. Coming up over the jumps and into turn 3 once again. I think McAfee's not just settling for this second place. He's kind of running down Brock Smith a little bit.
Certainly appears that way. I'm going to check the lap times as they come through here. I think you're right, Joe. He's definitely closing it in. It's just a matter of, can you do anything with it with only 1 lap to go?
Good question. It's going to take a phenomenal effort if he wants to try and take the win away, and he doesn't need it. Remember, all he needs to do is finish in this second spot. Barring any penalties, I didn't see anything out of their racing that looked like the stewards would deem that so, but that's up for them to decide. There was definitely a lot of leaning on one another.
I think that just kind of comes with the nature of short course racing, but that's why you have the stewards, that's why you have the admins. We're just the talking heads up here that get to talk about it, isn't it?
We get to give our opinions, but that's not what matters to the drivers in the end, other than maybe a bruised ego if we get a little too harsh up here. But Brock Smith is going to take the win in the first of our last chance qualifiers. He gets through to the feature race, and then Adam McAfee will as well, taking home that second place. Jake Hill, unfortunately, is done from third. So is Joel Ulrich and Quentin Johnson. It was a DQ for Cooper and Lambert today. So there's your finishing order. Anybody from third on down, you can say goodbye to from here. Okay, the next of our last chance qualifiers, the C main. This one sees Gavin Plummer starting on the top. Salman Borschinger will be in second, and Rick Huseman will start in third. Chris Sullins fourth today, then is followed by Joey Rickert fifth, Chad Simpson in sixth, and Drew Grantham in seventh, with Chris Leone rounding out your 8-truck field.
Well, LCQ, or call it D main number 1, was full of excitement. I thought that heat number 3 kind of showed us the most elbows out action. Well, I think that last race that we just saw kind of took it up to 11, as you said, Joe. I wonder what this one is going to provide us.
Probably just as much fun, if that was anything to go by, because the closer we get to the last of these D, C, and B mains, the more that the pressure is on to those drivers, because they're also going to be starting from farther and farther back in the field, too. This will set your starting position for the feature race. And when you're stuck at the back of 20 some odd trucks with this tight of confines around this track, it's going to be utter chaos back there. Hopefully not too chaotic on this one. We do want to see some good, clean racing out there, even though we'll probably see some bodywork flying. And the green flag will go for Gavin Plummer. He sends it up into turn 1 with quite the gap back to P2 of Borshing. Huseman going to try and slide it in sideways, 3-4 wide coming through turn 1.
That was definitely 4 wide, and I believe that P2 is Joey Rickert that came out with it. Talk about taking advantage. They were all stacked up, and now more contact down there at turn number 2. It is all Gavin Plummer running away.
Rickert started this race in 5th place, and he made up all of those positions at the start and into turn 1. That was unbelievable. The 79 is wasting no time getting into the transfer spot, but that's Rick Huseman behind him, who wants it back immediately, and we got a truck that's up and over.
Yeah, I think that might have been Chris Sullins maybe on his roof back there. I take that back. That's Solomon, as he finally is going to come grinding to a halt on the front straightaway.
And he winds up on his lid, which means there is no hope of him getting going. He has to take a tow into pit lane from there. That's essentially day done for him. And we're down to only 7 drivers. P2, still a hot commodity. Joey Rickert took it. Rick Huseman wants it.
Now, if you guys remember, Huseman kind of got shuffled back in his heat in turn number 1 on lap number 1. I wonder if this is going to be the redemption that he needs right now. All he needs is this one position of Joey Rickert. Let's see if he can get it done.
Boy, he is pushing him hard, making sure that he is going to have to hold that line as best he can around some of these corners. You can't completely shove him and just punt him out of the way, but he can lean on him to try and get some track position. Oh, he tried to cut back there, but Joey did a fantastic job of covering off the apex.
You can't drive through the truck. There's another big move. That's a huge move to the inside, and then he just stood on the brakes, parked it at apex. Looks like Huseman's going to grab that second spot as long as he can keep the truck nice and tight to the inside here. Rickert definitely fighting back.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was a textbook slide job from Huseman, but it's not done. Here comes Joey down the inside into turn 4. Both of them sideways into the corner. Inside to Joey Rickert. He takes that P2 back momentarily. Is this going to be the white flag? Yes, this is the last lap for both of them, and they're still side by side to decide who goes and who stays.
Little bit of door banging going into the corner, and now it was closed by Joey Rickert. That might have been the crucial moment on the turn number 1 exit. Let's see if Huseman makes a move here into turn number 2. He's going to stay right at the door of Rickert.
Again, they are nose to nose. There is nothing to choose between them. This might come right down to the wire unless someone can find something decisive into turn 4. Oh, it's a better exit, though, from Joey Rickert. Will Rick try and send it back down the inside? Almost gives him a shove, it looks like. Oh, he gets hard into the back of him and sends him out wide. Coming up through, here comes Chris Sullins, who wants to try and take it away. He gets turned around, and Joey Rickert is back up to second as Gavin Plummer is going to win this one. But Joey Rickert is through. I don't know how to parse that one. I think Rick was trying to allow him back through, and Sullins was trying to pick up on that, and it just devolved into an outright mess.
Yeah, well, what you need to know is it was Plummer and Rickert, your top 2 in that one. Yeah, it was a little overambitious from Rick Huseman there. Definitely turned Rickert, and then, like you said, he raised his hand, but unfortunately he was in the way and everybody just kind of tripped over him.
I wondered when I saw him do that. I didn't think he was going to be able to allow them through. There was too many drivers that were too close. In the meantime, let's go through our order for the last of our last chance qualifiers. Nathan Metaxen going to be starting on the top spot for this one, with Brandon Fourcade starting in second. After that, it is going to be Christian Noble who starts in third. Austin Bolson starts in fourth position, and Wyatt Miller in fifth. Drew Gerber will be P6, followed by Kyle D'Souza and Ryder Hewart starting in eighth position. We'll let you know if there was any change on that last finishing order, as sometimes that does happen. And that is a good example of why they have the three advancing into the sim. Before we get going, let's take one more look at that finish. Especially, I want to get a chance to watch Sullins try and just pick this up as best he can. He was so close to doing it, just bad luck on the timing.
So there's the contact from Huseman, and now Huseman is off the gas, but he's on the racing line. And there you see the contact there. But what I didn't really notice is that Rickert actually got into the back of that other car as well. So I'm not sure if that's going to come into factor. I tell you what, I'm happy I'm not race control right now.
Exactly. And I do believe we have let them know that broadcast is ready. So I'm waiting for word. Once they say sending, then that's pretty much usually a sign that it's been decided on the order, and there isn't going to be any changes. But otherwise, they tend to kind of delay so that they can go over the finish and make any immediate decisions. So we'll sit tight until we get confirmation from race control. And again, top two here in this last chance qualifier will be the last two that get into the feature race. And, oh, you spotted something, Joey. So it looks like maybe there was a bit of a change.
I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be called. I don't want to put words into race control's mouth out here. But it does look like maybe Huseman received a black flag from that. It's tough. I get it. You're trying to raise your hand and get out of the way, but at the same time, you're still on the racing line. So it's just going to come down to a judgment decision from race control, and that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, sometimes those things do happen. And the results stay. We got confirmation from race control. So that's kind of what I figured. That black flag would wind up being a little bit inconsequential, since he didn't advance anyways. But I can understand it. It seems like he's a little bit miffed by that one, but that does happen sometimes. In the meantime, they are going to be sending off these trucks for the B main here any moment now. And then we'll have a warm-up, and then it's off to the big show with not only a lot more trucks, but a lot more laps, 22 laps, and even, Joey, a competition caution that helps spice things up.
You talked about how well run these events are, and that goes to show you we don't really have yellow flags in iRacing in dirt off-road, but these competitors know how to follow the directions given out from race admin, from race control, and they do it just like how they do in the real world, which is so neat.
It is fantastic. Speaking of race control, did get clarification. The black flag was actually for the second contact. So it wasn't for accidentally punting second place. It was for the car trying to come through the middle and getting hit in there. So interesting on that one. But I think definitely makes sense, because since he did give the other position back, that one was not the issue here.
Yeah, and I will say that Rick Huseman did the right thing. It's just unfortunate. It kind of caused a mess is all.
Yeah. That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But who is going to be able to get the big cookie here for this LCQ, as the pace car is off and Metaxen has control. Green flag is out. Fourcade tries to follow him, but right behind, watch out for Bolson and Noble. They're close. In fact, a little bit of a bump from behind for the 43 as they come into turn one. 2 wide, 3 deep through the corner, and now they're going to be 3 wide, battling for third.
I think it was Noble that took advantage that time as Metaxen leads going into turn number 2. There's some more bumper shoves there, and cars climbing up on each other. 4 wide coming out of turn number 2.
How about Noble? He is up through to the transfer position now because of all that chaos, picking it up very easily. Bolson and Forcade in behind him. They now have the impetus to try to get back up in there. Forcade coming up from that transfer spot, now down to P4. Oh, he bounces a little too much on the inside line.
It was an excellent corner from Bolson, though. That bright green truck sitting there in P3, he was able to kind of get up alongside Noble exiting the final corner, and you saw Christian really send it into turn number 1. But I think that Austin Bolson there is definitely on the hunt.
He wants this one. Coming down into turn 2. He's close. He's going to try and swing around the outside maybe a little bit. That opens himself up for the 43 to have a shot at things, but no, he's not going to be able to get by. Ahead of it all, Nathan Metoxen is very pleased to see how hard they are fighting. He's gapped them by about a second.
You really watch these trucks, and anybody that slides too far off of the racing line, it just bleeds speed out there. You need to keep the nose of the truck tucked towards that apex, tucked towards that inside line. The smoother you are, the faster you're going to be around this place.
Just a little housekeeping. Ryder Hewart seems to have had an incident early in the race, and it has taken a tow to pit lane. So he is out. There goes Forcade underneath. He gets third place back. Next on his list going to be Christian Noble, but he's got to make up 3/4 of a second in 2 laps.
Talked about
like that.
Yeah, well, I think that was definitely payback right there, because tell you what, 4K just laid the bumper to Bolson in turn number 1, and now you're seeing basically what happens when one driver thinks he's done wrong.
Yeah, you talked about it earlier. When you feed it out, you dish it out, you better be ready to take it back. And Austin Bolson said, here, have some of your own medicine. He'll take that third place, but this has continued to distance themselves from P2, which is the ultimate goal here.
On to the final lap here in this LCQ. Let's see what happens between these two in turn number 1 here. Nice and tight there. The apex was the 25, but actually the acceleration goes to Forcade coming out of turn number 1 there. Let's see, does he make the move to the inside? Yes, actually a little bit of a feint. Try to force that truck of Bolson wide, and that's exactly what happened.
Gave a little too much space. Now he's going to lean on that number 43, banging doors as they exit out of turn 3. This is kind of a moot point, though. We have to remember this is for third place, which is not going to do you anything other than maybe some more points for the end of it. They come through turn 4, and Metoxen will take the victory. Noble will take the final spot that gets to race more tonight, and Bolson will at least get the moral victory, if you will, and take third over Brandon Forcade. But man, that was fierce for a position that really didn't mean much in the end.
That's one of those races that afterwards you see those two drivers walk towards each other in the paddock, and you just kind of sit back and watch.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so there's your results. Metoxen and, of course, Noble going on as the rest of them now get to sit back and wait. But 20 cars will get ready to take part in the feature here in just a bit. But they'll get a warm-up session to get reacclimated to the track, because the other thing that we haven't mentioned here, Joey, is this track, much like the real thing, has been having rubber laid down. It's been torn up by these tires. So everybody from the very first heat has not had a chance to really get a sense of it until now.
And you look at what's happened, actually, because you had mentioned the track state, but I'm looking at the track state in warm-up right now, and it is completely green, call it. It is brand new out there, so all of those grooves that were really cut into it from all the trucks and all the heats and all the LCQs, it's pretty much been washed away, and we're starting with what looks like a brand new racetrack. That means very, very slippery at the beginning. Got to pick and choose your lines, and then it really starts to come to everybody as the race goes on.
So as we watch them with the last few seconds of this warm-up, it is very brief, so that if they're going to get a sense for the track, they do have to get out there quite quickly. And from there, we will wrap it up. Good news is, with it being so short, with the track being so short, the short warm-up is at least going to fit on that point. So they don't need terribly long to get at least 2 or 3 laps in and settle things out here. This is a fixed setup series, so they can't really change anything on the trucks. It's just about making sure you understand kind of how the track is racing at this stage. So checkered
Get back
flag
in the rhythm, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
kind of go out there and get warmed up again.
You feel the rhythm, you feel the rhyme.
You get on up. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's Pro 4 time.
I love it. I was going to say short track time, but yeah, this is much better. So let's go through our starting order while Joey and I make inside jokes here. It is going to be Drake Mittag, who is reordered on the top. They inverted the top 2 for this feature. William Findling will be starting to his outside. After that, it is Mark Grechko, who starts in 3rd. Brody Disher starts in at P4. Jaden Minder is 5th today, and Hadley Boyce is 6th. After that, Brent Smith starts 7th. You'll see Colton Buchanan in the 8th position and Wes Graham in 9th. Top 10, Joey, going to be rounded out by Taylor Vandenbush.
Across the page in 11th is Stephen Metcalf in that 707. Patrick Solari is going to be starting in 12th. Brock Smith in 13th with Gavin Plummer 14th. Nathan Matoxen 15th. Adam McAfee 16th. Joey Rickert 17th. And Christian Noble. Those are going to be the 18 trucks that I see out there.
So they are giving it a little extra time. Yes, the cars have taken off, but it is a full pace lap to start this one off. So don't expect that pace car to dive away now. Everybody's going to get nice and lined up, and then they will be sent off. It is going to be the end of lap 9 that they will have the competition caution thrown manually.
And I'm actually going to jump in here. It's actually going to be at the end of lap 7 out here, Joe. I'm just getting past some information out here just because how much fuel can actually go into these trucks. I don't think that they can actually go a full 22 laps. So it's going to be 16 laps, and then we're going to get that competition caution at the end of lap number 7 just to make sure we can still get all of the trucks to the checkered flag.
Thank you. Thank you for catching that for me. That was a bit of a last-second change on us there. So understandable. No need to try and make these drivers figure out pit stops on top of things in these trucks. It's crazy enough. Now, one thing you should know, viewers, is that that competition caution will mean that any trucks that have gone a lap down will get waved around and get the lap back. Only 1 lap, though. So if you go multiple laps down, well, you're a bit out of luck on that one. So, if you do get passed by the leader because something happens, you can get back in this race. It is not over. In fact, it's just beginning because the pace car has come out of turn 4, zips on down the main straight, and leaves behind Mittag and Findling. What's it going to look like into turn 1 with 17 drivers piling in? Green flag is out. Let's find out together. Good jump from Drake coming up into the corner. Everybody behind, roaring into the left-hand hairpin. It pinches down to the bottom, 3 and 4 wide, but so far so good.
Relatively well-mannered even through the middle of the pack here. Let's see who comes out with the lead out of turn number 2 between Mittag and Findling right now. I believe that Mittag actually going to elbow it out, but here comes Findling. He's going to argue back on the inside. Look out for that P3. We're 3 wide coming off at turn number 3. 2 trucks turned around.
Ooh, it looks like I think one of those going to be Minder there, and it looks like maybe Noble also a part of that, unfortunately, coming back into turn 4. Somebody else way wide as we come back to the lead. Look at that. You mentioned the bump drafting. Mittag definitely pushing Findling forward, coming up into turn 1, and that extra speed actually catches him out. The 518 picks it up and is able to get a nose ahead, but it switches back to the right-hand side, which is going to be a disadvantage for William.
See if they can both get the truck stopped. Findling just does such a good job not to overshoot the apex. That forces Mittag to really just follow right in the tire tracks. You see Disher, that white and red truck, he's trying to force the issue into P2 right here. Findling loves seeing that in his mirror.
That should hopefully help him out. He needs some distance here, or maybe Brody's going to be a problem for him. Nearly gets to the inside, coming down through turn 4. Now he's in P2. Drake going from the top spot down to the bottom step of the podium as they all slide into turn 1. Brody, presents himself well, and he's almost able to get by.
I think that was a great move going down into turn number 1. Just like you've said so many times, the track just kind of flip-flops back on itself, and there's the park job, I'm going to call it, from our leader. Just get to the apex, stop the truck. Nobody can go through you.
My goodness, it's like a train at a switching station or something. Everybody, all boxcars just slamming into one another. But Findling will hold on to the top spot. Brody wants it. Oh, and too much inside curve for the 310 is going to send him out a little bit wide. Brody's got another opportunity. William is going to have to try and launch this one into turn 1 to hold him back. He gets a good run down the main straight, drifts off to the inside briefly, but then opens it up. The orange and white machine manages to get through once again, and they carry on the battle.
And there's even some internet connection issues that I'm seeing out of Findling, which makes it that much more difficult for everybody to race against. Look at Brody really try to just go the long way around. That's not going to work. Maybe he just wanted a little bit of clean air, a little bit of a mental reset on the battle.
Unfortunately, the race stewards have been quite busy. Noble, McAfee, Metcalf, and Smith have all gotten black flags already. My goodness, getting their money's worth up there in race control today and coming back down the hill. What about Hadley Boyce? 4th place is caught back up after he had a huge gap to them. They have been racing hard.
I think that's what happens when you get all 3 of the lead trucks just constantly flip-flopping those positions. You're right. Hadley as well as Buchanan. So we've gone from 3 trucks breaking away to potentially 5 trucks all arguing for the lead.
By the way, that is Brent Smith who had that black flag, not Brock Smith. So just to clarify for our audience, Drake just about getting an opportunity on the 909, not quite able to make it work as they climb back up the hill once again. Findling finally stretching his legs out. But again, they are going to compact back together. In fact, pretty soon here, considering competition caution at the end of lap 7.
Yeah, 2 more laps from this point right here as we start lap number 6. Like you mentioned, William Findling is starting to kind of stretch the legs a little bit of a contact there on the exit of turn number 1 between P2 and P3. I wonder if Drake Mittag's going to start to take a look. You see our truck there, Brody, go defensive right in the middle of the racetrack. So maybe feeling a little bit of heat in that mirror. Maybe it's Drake saying, I actually want a shot at winning this thing, and if I do, I want the track position when we get that yellow flag.
Exactly. If he has to fight Brody for it after the competition caution, that's going to make it harder to try and chase down William, because once William gets a gap, then it'll be very difficult. As we've seen, look at the pace that 310 has. It's already up to 0.7 of a second as we tick on to lap 7. Into this lap is when everybody's going to get checked up. And we do have Christian Noble, who is a lap down. Other than that, Brent Smith, Stephen Metcalf, and Adam McAfee are multiple laps down, although I think Brent and Stephen are still serving the pit black flags or something as we get a little bit of a touch from Drake on Brody. That upsets the truck. Oh, into the inside wall for Drake now, and now he has to back off.
Let's see here. This is going to be the final turn before that, call it competition caution at the end of lap number 7. Does P234 settle in this same spot? There's a big old send there, but Brody's going to be able to hold him off. Drake Mittag with the drag race to the start-finish line.
Oh, so close yet so far. He wasn't quite there as they cross the line. That will mark Drake as 3rd and Brody as 2nd. There was just maybe a 1/10 of a second, maybe even less than that, between them as they crossed the line there. So they all slow down. They'll park off to the side, and they're going to wave around Christian Noble, get him back on the lead lap. Once he has joined the tail of the train, then they'll get on their way and finish the last of our 16 laps today.
I love that the drivers actually follow directions out there under a quote-unquote green flag, although we're under yellow flag, right? It is still technically green flag in iRacing, but it just goes to show you how well run these events really are. Big shout out to Connor Berry and everybody who puts these on.
Yeah, and yeah, credit to Race Control with all the hard work, and to all of the drivers for making sure that everybody gets to have a fun time out here by kind of following these independent directions. For those that aren't aware, the full course yellows on the road side of iRacing isn't really built for road racing, so to speak. So they tend to be a little bit odd. So that's why they do this manually without the iRacing caution. But that does require good cooperation from everybody involved. So that's part of why they are so strict here. They want to make sure everybody is listening, everybody is doing as they are told, so that we can all have a good time. Thankfully, a short lap means we're not going to have to wait long like we did at Bark River for everybody to get back there.
So these are those trucks getting that lap back. Unfortunately, I think it's only going to be Christian Noble that's going to be on the lead lap. The rest of the trucks, including the 45 here of Brent Smith, are going to be one lap down or more. So they're going to basically have to stay at the tail end of the line.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. Looks like Smith, Metcalf, and McAfee all still laps down. At most, they're going to be fighting for 17th and 18th between Steven and Adam, which is still a points difference, but it'll be somewhat inconsequential in terms of things. And they won't have another four-course caution to get waved around in. This is pretty much it for them. I think where my eyes are going to be is at the top here between William, Brody, and Drake, especially if they don't let William get away this time. This is going to be a stunner. These three have been feisty today.
I'm going to throw a couple of dark horses in there. I'm going to be looking at Hadley Boyce and Colton Buchanan, the cars, or I should say the trucks in P4 and P5. Remember the amount of ground that they were able to close to those top three. So if I'm looking for maybe somebody who's not sitting in at the immediate front, the 994 and the 202.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I was impressed with how much they had regained ground there towards the end of that first stint there. So I think we should be getting going pretty shortly here, unless they're maybe going to try and reorder some people. Not hearing anything from Race Control quite yet.
I was noticing, just kind of looking at our timing and scoring over here, Joe. Brock Smith, I know that the other Smith was a black flag, but Brock Smith is our biggest mover so far, +7 up into 6th.
Ah, yeah, good catch on that. So Brock Smith doing a fantastic job passing at a place where it can be a little bit tough to get by. Here we go, coming out of turn 4. Finling has control of the field. Looks for the restart zone. We wait patiently. He's very much waiting patiently. Look how much they are stacking up behind him. Green flag is out. Didn't get the best of jumps over those behind him. Brody Disher is going to take the long way around. Or are they?
I think we're getting another restart here. Seeing a false start from Race Control. The leader was entering that restart zone too fast, and I'm seeing probably about a handful of mile an hour too fast, and that is what is calling that false start.
Interesting. I don't think I've seen them do this before, but glad to see Race Control on top of that. As we want a nice, fair start, everybody gets quickly back into line. Thankfully, I didn't see any real major issues either out of turn 4 into turn 1. That'd be the last thing we'd want, is losing a truck on the restart that they can't get around for the second one.
Let's see what happens here. Everybody kind of minding their P's and Q's right now, doing about, call it 35 miles an hour. I think that's kind of the goal that we're looking for into that restart zone coming out of turn number 4.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just based on pit limit speed that they've given the trucks a nice, easy speed limit to go for. Nice and single file, nobody popping out here. Green flag is out when Finling gets on the loud pedal once again. Coming up into turn 1, Brody Disher. What's going to happen this time? Almost gets underneath the 310. Also blocks off Drake Mittag behind him. And will hold on to that P2. Drake is no doubt going to be very hard. Oh, as we got a wreck in the back here. Didn't quite make out who that was, though.
Yeah, I think it was Wes Graham back there in that 188 getting caught up in things. But I just want to say it was perfectly executed on the restart from our leader, Findling. He left an entire truck width to the inside in turns 1 and 2 and just focused on the exit. And here he is coming out of turn 4 with the lead as Mittag slides away second place.
Finally gets that spot away from Brody. He's been trying on that for a long time. Just managed to get his nose in through 4 and finished the job. As behind him, your dark horse, Hadley Boyce, is getting very close, uncomfortably close to Brody.
See if anything can happen here in turn number 2. I think that Findling out front is probably what everybody does not want to see. I'm curious, can Mittag go up there and, oh my goodness, I'm seeing something pop up on our screen. Third place truck has a black flag.
He does indeed. We don't have word from race control what it is for quite yet, but that is his day pretty much over. Hadley Boyce is going to be able to get to the inside of him, make it a bit of a moot point because Hadley might be getting a podium finish here as things stand right now. And yes, I can report Brody is diving into pit lane to serve that penalty. Gutting for what has been an impressive run so far tonight for Brody.
Absolutely. It's frustrating to see if you're the driver in that situation, but oh my goodness, up front, that was a mistake out of our leader, Findling. He got onto that K-wall there at the apex of turn number 2. That really checked him up. Mittag got into the back, and now the race is on.
Well, it didn't give him a chance to overtake, but it did close things up dramatically. We said that the 518 wanted to make quick work of getting by second place. That he did. Now comes the real challenge, taking the lead. Little bit of contact between them coming off of turn 4 just to let him know he is there. Can Drake steal this away from William Findling?
I've been watching the driving styles really between our top 2, and it seems like our leader, Findling, is so good at capitalizing on the corner exits. He's willing to give away the entry. He's willing to give away the apex just to get the power down, which translates into the top speed down each one of these straightaways. We're going to see if Mittag can maybe get up to the inside and force something different.
And for Findling, he is leading the championship right now. The last thing he wants to do is throw away really good points, especially when Brody is now sent to the back of the field with that penalty. How hard does he want to fight Drake, who's down in 8th in points? He is none of his concern, really.
It's always something you got to kind of weigh, right? There's 2 sides to the sword. Which are you going to be on? And maybe can you get away with a clean cut on both of them? Findling, I think, has kind of been the class of the field. If I was going to pick a next fastest truck, it's definitely been Mittag. But I wonder if the roles were reversed and Mittag had the clean air, if we'd be seeing the same thing.
Seen a black flag for, I think, maybe Brock Smith. Yeah, Brock Smith, Chaden Minder as well. It's been a bit of a busy night. Really unfortunate to see, but like I said, they really run a tight ship at this place. Coming up through the final corner, a pass for the lead. Not quite complete, as Drake did get a little bit of daylight in front of him. Surely he's going to be fighting even harder with now only 2 laps to go.
You see the track really starting to change as well. I wonder if maybe Findling is starting to struggle a little bit on the beginning half of these corners. I had mentioned that he's been giving it up, totally sacrificing the first half of the corner to focus on the second half. I wonder if the track changing is also kind of throwing him a curveball in addition.
Oh, he is there, and he's got a good exit. They're going to be drag racing up over the whoops here on the backstretch into turn 4. It's going to be all about who gets that run off of it as they send it through. It's a little bit shallow on the entry for Drake. That allows William to try and cut back for the over-under. He gets a little bit better speed. It carries on, but now William has the inside into the desired turn 1.
Let's see how hard he jumps on the brakes right here. What does Mittag do? And just another park job from Findling out there. And oh my goodness, I think I see it. Is this a black flag for Mittag now?
It is. You're right. Holy cow. Hadley Boyce might even be second here today. William Finling, 1 lap to go, and he's now got a buffer between himself and Hadley Boyce. It's looking like it is clear sailing. Taylor Vandenbush is going to be promoted onto the podium the way this goes. This might actually be incident limit for Drake, as they do have that in dirt racing, believe it or not. You can beat and bang on each other too much out here. But William Finling with the victory here today at Wild West, befitting the name of the track.
The fastest driver stands in victory lane here tonight. I think that you were going to have to beat Findling, and he was showing why he was the fastest qualifier, why he won his heat, and why he stands on top at the end of the night.
Wow. I mean, I don't often think about it, but Wild West, my goodness, it really was the Wild West out there today. Take your pick. And action was everywhere that you look as the rest of the drivers finish. Hopefully we will get updated results soon because it is still showing, Drake as second. However, the penalty is still hanging over him. And because of the shortened race, that's kind of complicating things a little bit. So while it does say unofficially Drake is second, it should promote Hadley up into P3. Vandenbush should wind, or excuse me, P2. Vandenbush should be P3. Buchanan fourth, and then Rickert into fifth. And it's sixth for Metoxen, seventh for Noble, Disher in eighth, and Grechko in ninth. As we'll go through the rest of them a little bit later on. In the meantime, I do believe we've got our winner ready to talk to us. That is William Findling in the number 310 truck. Let's have a chat with him to see what he thought of that race, because certainly had a run for his money. Drake got the penalty at the end, William. If it wasn't for that incident limit, do you think he would have had you?
Actually, yes, because actually him and Brody were both aggressive. I really think they would have both had me if that incident limit wasn't there. I ain't gonna lie.
How much was your championship lead weighing on your mind? We mentioned that Drake was down in eighth coming into tonight, so he wasn't really a challenger for you, that you didn't need to worry about him passing you. Were you considering that, and how hard you fought him?
Honestly, I thought he was higher in points, so I was willing to battle him for points. I actually thought he was higher.
Well, that's interesting then. I guess a bit of a relief on that side. Even still, an impressive win. What was your technique to try and hold these guys back? Because it looked like like you said, they were extremely aggressive.
Honestly, just defending. Like, that's all I could do, especially in a track condition like this where I was struggling to even get the car turn or anything, where I just had to defend.
Well, you did a great job defending, really gave us some incredible excitement. This, I believe, should mean that you head into the final round with the points lead. Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
William Findling here in the regional series is going to be heading off into Crandon with the advantage. And then, of course, behind him, it's going to be the likes of Vandenbush trying to chase, or excuse me, Hadley Boyce, rather, trying to chase him down. And looks like Joey has caught up with our second place finisher.
Yeah, Hadley, nice job on the P2 finish. It kind of dropped into your lap there, didn't it?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, it probably wasn't the best way to gain a podium. I think I put the final nail in the coffin to take Brody's X, but yeah, I just fledged out, and it was just sort of one of those things. You can't really do much about it on a slick track like that.
So we saw a couple black flags from incident points, and that's typically not something you deal with in officials. Was that on your mind at the beginning of the race?
Yeah, for sure. It's sort of one of those things, especially with turn one, and even, because it's quite a tight wee track, you've sort of got to be very, very careful with how you place your truck. Unfortunately, there was a bit of bumping and banging. I ended up getting caught with, I think, Grechko and Minder. I got caught up with them, and it tore a little bit of the fender off and a little bit of the bonnet. And yeah, she was a bit ill handling, but Coming from a dirt over background and racing on the slick, it sort of come as second nature, just to use your throttle control and just hold on really.
What did you think about the 17, 18 trucks here on Wild West and what was it, 16 laps? What do you think the overall picture was for you?
Busy. We had a lot of chat with the guys as well. There was a few guys getting tangled up and just just that domino effect. Unfortunately, it sort of happens. You're racing so close together with these guys, and one little slip up can cause a 3 or 4 car pile up, and then that can end your race. I had trouble even at Firebird, my first heat race that I did, and I ended up on my roof and out, and then tried to fight my way through the consi and still couldn't get it.
Well, thanks for coming out and racing with us, and congrats on that podium finish.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'd like to send a shout out to Iridium Sim Sports and their sponsors, so Smith Tech Fab, Concut, Machi, Highline Spouting and Fascia, Watson Co Electrical, 452, SimShoot Broadcasting, Ectosys Designs, and then DMF Performance as well. These guys have helped me out a lot with learning these trucks and getting the old New Zealand represent out there as well.
Well, that was Hadley Boyce coming home in second place today, driving that number 994 truck.
Following him in third, it was Taylor Vandenbush, who came out with a pretty good finish considering. Taylor, you started from 10th. On the restart, you were 7th. And at the finish, you're on the podium. I mean, what's going through your mind as this race is unfolding around you?
I never give up scenario. That's all I gotta say. This is first time here up on the podium, man, and I just never gave up. My truck took a beating.
I was
And,
noticing that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead.
It looked like you took damage from very early on. Was it mostly superficial that you were missing the hood and various parts, or were you starting to feel some handling going away?
After a few hard hits in the beginning, my right front definitely had some issues. Every time I'd land, it would just stay down. So taking the left turns, I had to use an e-brake to get the truck rotated. There was some major damage, and I was just hoping it held on to the end.
And that it did. This is definitely a dramatically different track from what we've got next week. Are you going to be back for Crandon? How do you see yourself performing there?
I like more the natural landscape tracks like Cranton and Bark River. So for me to be up here on the podium at this track, just it blows my mind because this is not one of my best tracks, but we'll see what we got in store for Crandon. That land rush is always something.
It is indeed. Well, best of luck out there and fantastic race today to finish B3.
Thank you.
Taylor Vandenbush coming home with a third tonight, which is going to wrap us up. But as I said, we are not done because round 5, the last of the season, we're going to be at Crandon, and that will be at 6 p.m. Pacific. A big thank you goes to the organizers of the iRacing Short Course Series, as well as our team tonight, Zach, Joey, and Cameron. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.